Oh. Good evening, everybody. Sound.
What if I were to suggest that you play a key role?
The background's off, Scott.
What?
You need to do the original sound thing or whatever it is.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
because it's only got her voice.
Yep. Okay. All right. All right. Well, hey, everybody. I apologize, but let's try this again, shall we? We're going to do it all the way from the beginning.
What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Awakening World. I'm Love Coach Scott Thomas. I'm honored to be your host for tonight's show and your host for most every night's show that we do. I'm noticing that I'm feeling extra queasy about the topic we're going to tackle tonight because we're going to be talking about some really hard stuff. Now, the purpose of the Awakening World is always to inspire, but also to inform. And we are the Global Peace Tribe, and a war has begun that I'm imagining nobody watching this show feels good about. And there's a lot happening very quickly. And I'm imagining almost everybody is in the awareness that the shadow side of humanity is being exposed more than ever before. The Epstein files is, of course, kind of the poster child experience of that. But I'm imagining that all of us are maybe more increasingly having to look, even within ourselves, at those parts of ourself that maybe we have regret around or even shame. We all have a shadow side, and it's said that the greater the light, the greater the shadow. And so I'm really grateful for tonight's show. And I want to acknowledge my co-host for the evening, Dr. Tara, who first said, Scott, let's do a show on this stuff. And we're going to hear from Dr. Tara, but let me introduce you to the other people that are with us as well tonight. Also from the Consciousness Club, our dear friend Shelley Reef is with us. And a new member of the Consciousness Club and a friend of mine, Satara Faye, and all of us were together at the recent Conscious Life Expo. Had some beautiful conversations. I'm really grateful that Rebecca Hardcastle is back on the show. We haven't seen Rebecca here for a little while, so it's great to have you back, Rebecca. And we're going to hear from Desiree tonight, as well as she will lead our prayer time a little bit later in the evening. Our beloved Omashar is with us, and he's going to be providing a pair of songs. And because of the intensity of this topic, I really was hoping that Ray Amana would be able to join us this evening, because
She is here.
I know I'm going to get there, old buddy. And don't blow my lead in, pal. Come on. Anyway, with no further ado, to do our opening song and to really bring in the light as she does so beautifully, we're going to have our opening song with Ray Amana. And welcome, my dear friend. And before you sing, before you play, I would love to just drop in with you for a moment and kind of hear what your reality is about the shadow side and how we work with it, how we honor it, how we manage it.
Thank you, Scott. And I'm really feeling you. So, just holding you in that space of love and compassion and gosh, I mean, it's part of the Great Awakening is we pass through the shadows. And back in 2011, when my awakening started, I got this big download about this progression of the unleashing of the illusion. And inside of that unleashing, it was a big awareness of, oh my God, look at that injustice, look at that injustice, look at that injustice. And for some, the temptation would be to stop there in pointing fingers at all the injustice. But then I saw as we continue to walk that path up the mountain, the next awareness is, oh my gosh, and I have done that too.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been all of it. And there's nothing to point a finger at, because as we point fingers, we're stuck there. And I feel that we are at the threshold of this new time, this new age, this new earth energy, where it's about unity consciousness. And so all the places where there's been deception, encumbrance, illusion, those things are being ripped from the roots. And the blessing of gatherings like this is we get to be the light unto the world. And in moments of the greatest challenge, there have always been those people who have chosen kindness, those people who have chosen good, to take care of their communities, to take care of their neighbors, to uplift one another. We know what the vibration of all is well feels like. And, I think, Scott, from your beautiful work with couples and families and individuals, you radiate this energy, this force field that all is well. And when you do that, it brings people into vibrational resonance with all is well. So we can get on the bandwagon of all the things that are wrong and, in essence, deny the divine intelligence that lives and is exhibiting through each of those situations and people. Or we can choose to be in the space of service to one another, in the embodiment of all is well, remembering that we are creative beings. Our work in this world, our force, our power is in creation. It's not in regurgitating the ideas or the narratives that are coming in the world around us. It doesn't mean to take a blind eye. It just means we're prioritizing unity over division. And inside that prioritization, taking an awareness, a scan of our body temple and how we're holding ourselves in each interaction. Have I stayed in unity? Have I stayed in that feeling of all is well? Or have I believed in separation? Have I fallen victim to what is causing wars? Is that shadow is rearing its head. And of course, if there's a big shadow, there has to be a great light. So may we be that great light and hold it, hold the reins, hold the love, and stay in the remembrance of who we are, see the beauty in one another, and continue to call it forth. I mean, with my singing school, we've had classes where we get into the class and it's like, it feels energetically like all hell is breaking loose. And we're like, this is what we came for. We came to sing it into peace, sing it into balance, and we feel it each time come back there. So we're in the midst of a grand transmutation. And in order to transmute, there has to be some darkness to change from one form into another. So those are some words to offer.
It's almost like the closing thought. Like you summarized where to go with it so beautifully, Rhea.
Mm-hmm.
And I so honor every time you speak. We all are enraptured by your music, which we'll hear in a moment. But your words and your wisdom, you are truly a clear channel for spirit to flow through.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Scott. Thank you. And I just also would like to share, in the midst of all of this, for the last 5 days, I have been overflowing with the love of God. All I have been able to feel is the love of God pouring through. So I know that there is something more. And I invite all of us to commune with that love, to feel that healing balm, and just see it spreading throughout humanity, throughout all of creation.
And on top of her beautiful wisdom and her love flowing through, she's going to bless us with an open.
And this process helped me even to know what I was going to sing. So this is an invitation. And when I sing this song, I like to sing it, and I invite you to sing along. The words are, open, open, open your heart to me. And I like to sing it as though the Great Mother is singing it to me. Open your right then to divide and soothe.
The gallery view and asking us all just to send love and appreciation for her beautiful opening thoughts. And may we really continue for our hearts to continue to open as we receive the wisdom from all of the different people that are in our audience tonight and that are going to be presenting and speaking. Connie, who's in the audience, said it perfectly. She said, brilliant opening statement to set the stage for tonight. Thank you for feeding the high vibration needed for this evolutionary leap that humanity is in the process of taking. And Susan wrote, yes, thank you, Rhea. The words are the inspirational feeling that we all need. Tara wrote, that is so beautifully said. And so thank you. And Rhea will be back in a little while.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. Well, Dr. Tara is someone I have the greatest respect for. She is the co-founder, along with our good friend Ellen Steinfeld, of the Consciousness Club, which meets periodically and always just has fascinating speakers and conversation. And she is who suggested this topic tonight. And so with no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my co-host for the evening, the one and only Dr. Tara.
Scott, thank you so much for this introduction and also for holding this beautiful space for all of us to, with love and compassion, talk about some of the most difficult topics that there are to talk about and to process these most difficult feelings together. Rhea Mana, thank you so much for that opening song. It just got me right in my heart. And also, of course, to Omashar. I love this idea of singing something into peace that Rhea Mana had brought to us. What a beautiful concept. For those of us not gifted with the ability to sing in a way that is harmonious, I like to think that we can also pray, meditate, and bless things into peace. Looking through the Epstein files when they were released was something that I thought I was going to be prepared for. Being a psychologist, having worked in inpatient psychiatric units, in inpatient ERs, having been one of the first people that is there talking to someone after a suicide attempt or a rape or worse. But I wasn't actually. I wasn't actually prepared for what I was confronted with there. The scale of it, the feeling that personally where I was in my station, right? I could have been on faculty at Cornell's medical school. I could have written books. I could be, whatever, accomplishment you want to list, right? That could give the ego a sense of feeling power. None of that was was sufficient to hold, to hold the feeling of unity. It has to come from that higher place, right? We can't rely on our ego. The only way to feel sovereign, I think, and to feel power when faced with such darkness is to go to that higher consciousness place, which Rayamana so beautifully was able to facilitate for us. And in my work, I talk a little bit about different ego constructs, what I call the power ego and the cower ego. And I think it's important for us to talk a little bit about that tonight, because when we are loving, heart-centered, high consciousness people, right, and we also have to confront this horrible situation, it can feel so ontologically shocking that anybody could hurt another person in this way, or that they can do such systemic damage, that the plan to do harm to humanity was so deliberate. It is shocking. It's shocking and it's rattling. So I think that it might be helpful to start just to think about our own shadow and how we could possibly even begin to relate, so that we can understand, we can bring compassion, we could then not succumb to the darkness, the shame, etc., that comes with coming face to face with this darkness. So my work early in my career was on developing treatments for eating disorders. And eating disorders may not seem particularly relevant here, but perhaps by the end of my 2-minute explanation, you might see that there is a darkness with eating disorders. It's not simply, these young girls want to be attractive. It's so much deeper than that. There is a choice that's made to uphold an ego ideal of thinness over honoring one's body, over listening to one's hunger and fullness cues. And there's a decision to do harm that's made. It's okay if I harm my body, if I take these diet pills, if I take these weight loss drugs, if I restrict my food intake, if I vomit to get rid of the food, if I smoke, if I do cocaine, whatever. It's okay if I do harm in order to meet my ego goal of thinness. And that decision right there, it's the spiritual equivalent of letting a vampire in. You may not realize exactly what the vampire will do, but the vampire gets invited in when we choose harm in order to prop ourselves up and feel good momentarily. And so understanding eating disorders, which a lot of therapists aren't trained to treat because it's so different. It's not just feeling low or feeling stressed. There is, I would argue, a moral and ethical decision being made to uphold this ideal, and that there's a lack of awareness that upholding that ideal of thinness is to one's detriment. They think, oh, if I just lost a little bit more weight, then I'll finally be happy. Then I'll finally be there. But they lose themselves in the process. And in fact, a person can even starve themselves to death. And so if a pre-teenage girl could choose to override the evolutionarily built-in signals of hunger and fullness, the basic drive to eat, to the point of death, right? Then what could a person do in the process of upholding the ideal of power or money or fame, right? Almost anything, I think, actually. I think that we are capable of doing almost anything when we don't feel that power of God flowing through us, when we don't feel that higher consciousness feeling, we separate ourselves from it, or we're programmed to separate ourselves from it. And what can happen is that, especially if we're in a situation where there's programming and there is occultic influence, or there is reinforcement for overriding one's basic instincts, what we can then end up doing are things like hurting other people, raping other people, any number of things, right? We can make the choice to and get reinforced to override our basic moral instincts. And I think that's exactly what happened. I think that there is this system in place for people to override their basic moral instincts in order to achieve these ego ideals. And to some extent, we've all done it. To some extent, we've all invited that vampire in at one point or another, but we also, conversely, have the choice to no longer hurt ourselves or other people at any moment. It could be right up until the very end. We still have the ability to make that choice. And I think that's what this is all about. I think that facing the shadow, facing our own shadow, it's all about knowing that we can tolerate whatever comes up, and that no matter what it is, we can choose to listen to our basic moral instincts, and we can choose the collective, and we can choose to raise consciousness. And that's it. That's it right there, that choice. We talk about choosing love, but what does that mean? Does that mean just, sitting around and singing Kumbaya? Well, it could be in part. I don't want to count, that out. I think that singing things into peace is quite important. And also, I think that the rubber meets the road when we are confronted with these deeply, deeply dark moral issues in our society and in ourselves. And we can choose to stand up. So one way that we can do that, for instance, in our community, is when we see other people in the spiritual community, especially, making the decision to uphold ego ideals, right? We can non-judgmentally make the judgment call that it's not okay. And it's not okay to, for instance, talk about how God is so important, and then also, for instance, turn around and then say God is a construct. Right? There's a deep moral, spiritual injury that can happen there when there is that inconsistency. And so it's important to call it out, and it's important to hold a pathway back so long as behavior has changed, because we've all made mistakes. And at the same time, we need to hold ourselves and others accountable in order to protect our community and to protect our evolution, and also to not reinforce these decisions and not make it easier to make these decisions that lead us into darkness.
I just want to riff on what you said for a moment. And for any of you who don't realize, Deepak Chopra, I think the quote that just slayed us all was when he said, God is a construct, God is not real, cute girls are real, to Jeffrey Epstein. And I think what that horrible moment that he would say that, think that way, really is a reflection of what Dr. Tar is about. And my guess is he wanted to be part of the club. It's like, and in order to be part of this elite group that includes Bill Clinton and Bill Gates and other people, celebrities, I'll come in and I'll talk the talk and I'll do the thing to be part of the club. Well, I'm sure glad I'm part of the Consciousness Club. And I'm really glad I'm part of the Global Peace Tribe Club. And I'm really glad that I'm part of the Unity Earth Club and the Soul Search Club and the Connection Field Club. The point being that who we surround ourselves with at this time is so important. And to always keep an eye on, when am I stepping outside of my true, deepest integrity to make an impression or to be part of a club? And boy, let's be really conscious about the clubs that we choose. And that's a good segue. Would you like to introduce Shelley, since she's part of the Consciousness Club and you're my co-host?
I would love to, Scott. Thank you. So it is my great honor and pleasure to introduce the beautiful Shelley Reef. Shelley is an earth angel, I think is the best way to describe her. And her experiences that she can create using sound bowls and all sorts of different instruments just vibrationally lift us up so high. And I can speak, I'm sure, for the collective of our crew when I say that. Shelley is so deeply insightful and brings a beautiful divine feminine energy. And I thought with this topic, with this heavy topic, there's no better person than Shelley and the other beautiful guests here than to talk about this, because Shelley has some real world experience being in the industry, seeing darkness and choosing the light. And again, we've all chosen darkness, but myself especially. As Scott said, the greater the light, the greater the darkness. And I think that Shelley is such a beautiful light for us here today on this show. So Shelley, welcome. I'm very much looking forward to hearing what you have to share.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tara and Scott, for having me here. Wow, there's so much that I can reflect on, and I think I'd like to just kind of pick up right where you all left off, and that's talking about, we were talking about Deepak Chopra and how impactful that was for all of us. Well, it is true that maybe the degree that I'm able to reflect light right now is the balance for all of the darkness that I witnessed when I was working in high-end show business in New York City. I lived in New York City for 20 years, where I worked in fashion and entertainment, everything from live entertainment to recorded, some of the biggest shows on TV. And I have a lot of the biggest celebrities on my resume. That doesn't reflect anything that I do in my world right now. But what I want to begin by saying is this. What I witnessed all the time in this industry, I worked with a lot of celebrities, and a lot of them were in the entertainment industry or the music industry, but also a lot of them some of them were spiritual celebrities as well. And there's something about celebrities. Celebrity fame distorts a person's ability to connect with regular people. And conjunctly, there's this other side of it where people look at a famous person and want to get close to them. And I guess the question is why? So many people, especially young girls, want to get close to a person that is famous, even if they don't really care that much about that person's art or what it is that they're putting out in the world. It's just an attraction to the fame. Sometimes young girls will see someone presenting on stage that they've never seen before and kind of offer themselves to that person like a sacrificial lamb. Why does that happen? It's something that's deeply, deeply ingrained in our generation, that it's supposed to be that way. I witnessed so much of this. So first of all, back to famous people. If there's anyone in the youthful generation listening right now, because I only have a few minutes to talk right now, I just want to say this. People who are famous are juggling a lot. There's a lot at stake. And so they're presenting themselves in a certain way. They're presenting themselves in a way that furthers their career. It's not really who they are. They're very busy. They can be very self-absorbed. They're pretty typically not the greatest partners. So if you're looking to get close to a famous person, why? Is it because you think that if you get close to them that they will take you along on the ride and make you famous as well? The percentage to which that happens is almost zero. It is very common for people to engage you if it's fun, but then they're on to their next big thing, and you're left wherever you met them. So just know that the possibility of that happening is very, very small. If you think you're going to get close to someone who's famous and you're going to be their next partner, A, they probably don't make a really good partner, and B, the percentage of that happening is also very, very, very small. So now that we've addressed this, let's talk about the times that I was on P. Diddy's payroll. This takes me way back to New York City. And, so many of us were. In high-end entertainment, there's kind of a small there's like a small group of people that are, producing the dancers, the stylists, the designers, the musicians behind the shows that you see commonly, both live and on TV, movies, all of that stuff. And so we all work for each other. We've all kind of worked for everyone. And so those times that I worked for P. Diddy, I did witness something that made me uncomfortable. And I will say that it was the very first time that I was asked. At the time, I was a creative director and a producer. And I was asked to provide entertainment for it was a I think Grammys show. No, it was the MTV Music Awards, for which we also performed with him on stage. I've also been on stage with him. I took that off my resume real fast. So at this after party, they wanted the girls to be more scantily, these professional dancers that included Rockettes, and just very high-end dancers who perform for kind of all of the biggest stars in the industry. And these are professional dancers who have never, most of them, even set foot in anything like a strip club or anything like that. And they wanted them to perform more scantily clad than I was okay with or had ever done. However, when we asked the entertainment, I said, I'm not doing that. And my director said, just ask the girls, just ask, they'll pay for it. And so I asked them, and to my surprise, they all said yes. I couldn't believe it. Not one of them backed out. They all said yes. Okay, so next stage, I set up a camp backstage, and I said, I'm here. I'm not going to be out there. I'm here. And if anything happens, if anything crosses the line, you're to come right back here immediately, and we'll just pull you right out of it. And that can be all of you. I don't care. Your safety is first. And I would do loops in the room, and I would witness things happening that looked much more like a strip club environment or a sexually charged environment than an industry post Grammy or post whatever it was, MTV Music Awards event. And I smelled a rat. Well, the girls were game. At the end of the night, we collected everyone and everything was fine. But later I did learn that my staff, alongside everyone else, was being invited. And this is where I want you to really listen, especially if you're young here. No one was being forced into anything. People are being invited to go behind a velvet rope. And once you get behind that velvet rope, you're invited to go behind another one and another one. And so there's a series of choices all the way down the line. And it was always confusing to me that how easily so many of these girls just said yes, 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 with so much excitement. I got behind the velvet rope, right? Why couldn't they sense the energetic discordance of this person, of this people, of this organization, of what was happening? Could they sense it and say yes anyways because they thought that they were going to gain something by going there? And if so, what? Fame, right? Your next boyfriend? We already talked about that. So what is it that you're really looking for? The highest chance is that you're going to be used and discarded. That would be the least painful of all of this. So I'm bringing all this up. I've never talked about this publicly, but it really is time. I bring it up because I want to really instill in first our youth, our young men and women of today to do the practices, to take the reins. I know that you are discerning between what is fake, what's real, what's AI, what's not, what you want and what you don't, more than our generation ever did. And take that to the next level, right? I want you to learn how to smell a rat and stand up and say no in your energetic body and your spiritual body. I want you to know when you're being sovereign in your energy field. And what are the practices that get you there? So daily practices, morning practices are really important. To do a daily meditation. If you can't do one yourself, Joe Dispenza has lots on YouTube. Make sure it's not AI. Joe Dispenza has lots of good stuff. And you know what? There's some 45-minute meditations. That's a big chunk out of your day, but it's going to make a difference and it's going to set you up to be sovereign. If you like sound healing, there's some live ones on my YouTube that are designed for that. And I'll be putting out more shorter ones to make it more accessible too. So I want to say that right now, kind of this whole of what's going on, we have a war, we have the Epstein files. Consider if this war is being created as a distraction from the Epstein files. Anything is possible in this world. I think a handful of us were hoping that it was going to be disclosure. That would be a lot more fun and interesting. But could it be war? And is there a history of this in our world? There's always a backstory. There's always something bigger that's going on. So there's always something that you can't really fight and you can't really affect other than in the energetic world. So just as so many other people on this call have been saying tonight, this time, this war, the Epstein files, everything that's coming out, it really is a calling to get down with yourself, your beautiful temple, your body that is your temple. It is the throne on which you sit and command your life from. And every thought and every emotion that you entertain is the future that you are going to experience. And so regardless of how powerful this huge wave of shadow and darkness appears right now, the future is still down to what you are choosing in every single moment. I believe in timelines. I believe in 5D, and I believe that we have the power to begin to embody 5D awareness here in the 3D where all of this horror is playing out. And to the degree that the shadow is getting darker and the 3D is getting louder, is it not getting louder and darker because the light is getting brighter? And so we all come together, at any moment during any day that you feel overwhelmed by all of this, or maybe you just want to look at something on your YouTube and you can't get past what you just saw. You can't unsee the things that you see that you never wanted to know. In those moments, I invite you to sit down, take a breath, go into your heart, your pineal, your crown, and connect to the light grid of light workers that is enveloping this planet and getting stronger every single day. It's always there for you. There are always millions of us at any given moment meditating, praying, envisioning heaven on earth. We're always here doing it. It's always there. Tap into it. Feel it.
Shelley, I love you. It's just
I love you all. I love you, Scott.
it's so beautiful, and what an incredibly important message. If you're willing, I'm going to ask Connie, who does our editing, to make a edit of that, and let's get it out to as many young people as possible. Let's find a way to get it, because most of the people watching our show are older. although certainly it is applicable to, be discerning over what spiritual teachers or what movements we get involved in. But everything you shared was so wise. And I want to remind people that when you get stuck on that YouTube thing, that is like, there is an alternative. And the alternative is to go to Shelley Reef's YouTube channel. And I pulled it up briefly. Take a look at other wonderful things that all of our presenters are doing. But since she mentioned her YouTube channel, and it's beautiful, and she has so many videos of sound healing, relaxing, and there's nothing like Shelley and her harp. So I encourage everybody, just go to youtube.com and put in Shelley Reef, and it comes right up. So thank you, Shelley, for your beautiful contributions, and I look forward to hearing more from you during our panel conversations tonight.
Thank you, Scott.
We have so many amazing people presenting tonight, and I'm really happy that Rebecca Hardcastle decided to come back. She's been on the show before on some of our Making Contact editions, and I certainly respect her as someone who's been very honest as an experiencer. Dr. Tara, what would you like to put in as, because it was Dr. Tara's suggestion to bring you in, Rebecca. So I'd love to see Dr. Tara's thoughts are as an introduction as well.
Thank you, Scott. So, Rebecca, we had met on this show actually, I think last year, and I just really loved what you had to share. And it's so rare that someone else with a PhD in psychology, like myself, would be thinking along these lines. So, I always was kind of keeping tabs on your work following our being on the show together, and your Substack article. Wanted Dead or Alive, Doom Spiral or Exoconscious Enlivened really spoke to me. And I thought, this is a message that people need to hear. We need to talk about occult inversions and how we've strayed from a moral sense of right and wrong to this kind of moral relativism. Plus, everything is so confused. We're getting all sorts of mixed messages. It's hard to make sense based on the outside information being presented, what's real. So it's important more now than ever to turn inward to our moral ethics and instincts and consciousness, which is why I thought you'd be perfect for the show tonight.
Oh, thank you so much. It's just delightful to meet everyone and to be together with you again, Tara, and of course, Scott, to be with you again. I want to talk a little bit about the roots of confusion, how this confusion actually is happening and what's causing it for us, not knowing what to think, not knowing what moral decision to make, so many things being thrown at us. I think Tara mentioned that there's a system behind this. There certainly is a system. And I think Shelley said something like, what's the backstory? There is a backstory. And I just want to lift up just a few historical notes of what's actually been happening to the human race and why we, especially in Western culture, have fallen into this just utter kind of despair and confusion and paralysis. I would say a lot of paralysis. So the first thing I want to talk about is the idea of cognitive dissonance. I know we hear a lot about it and we kind of throw that word around. And Tara mentioned inversion. And cognitive dissonance is really where you get inverted, you get turned upside down. It's normally you innately would know right side up and you would know what path to follow. And then when cognitive dissonance comes in, you go upside down and you get an inversion. You get what I called in my Substack an occult aversion. So it's actually, a lot of this work came out of World War II. And a psychologist named Leon Fettinger is really the one that invented the whole idea of cognitive dissonance. And that was in 1957. So you may or may not been born then, but believe me, it's still it's saturating our culture today, cognitive dissonance. And I noticed when Scott was talking, he said, I got queasy when I thought about doing this topic. That's cognitive dissonance. That has been weaponized to make us feel queasy, to make us go into this, as Shelley was talking about, this self-doubt. I keep saying yes to things that I don't want to say yes to. And that was actually engineered into culture. And so after a while, as we've talked about, especially Shelley brought forth with all these decisions that are made, we just get overwhelmed and we just collapse into saying yes and getting inverted. So that's really where occult inversion takes over. Before I go on, I just want to share a little bit personal transparency about how my roots went into this topic. I moved to Washington, D.C. in 2011 to work with Dr. Edgar Mitchell on zero point energy, consciousness, and the extraterrestrial reality. We kind of put those three things together. I was the Washington, D.C. representative for him. He was down in Florida. And in 2012, around 2012, I met one of my best friends in DC who was Deborah Sigmund, and she had founded this NGO called Innocence at Risk. And so, being best friends, we spent so much time together, and I learned so much about sex trafficking. I learned so much about what was going on. And believe me, 2012, 2013, the UN was looking at what was going on with Epstein. This is not a new thing. Even though we kind of get caught up in this current events, it was going on full bore there. And my friend Debbie would go to the UN and I would say, is Clinton's name really on all these, airline roles? And she goes, oh yeah, I've seen all of them. They showed all of them. So actually the UN are one, peacekeeping, hopefully more elevated institution. They knew what was going on and they totally were shut down and silent about it. And then in 2014, I on Dr. Mitchell's behalf, I put together an email to go to John Podesta, who once again is in the Epstein files. And I asked him for an entree actually into the Obama administration, but he agreed to speak with us. And that didn't work out. Dr. Mitchell got sick, but in 2016, all of my emails were dumped on the Epstein file, on the WikiLeaks file. So all of my address, my phone number, everything. I still get calls to this day about the WikiLeaks files. And that's when I learned about Podesta, Comet Pizza, all of these things that are just floating around today that, we had never heard of. And I was kind of appalled at myself. I'm like, why didn't I do some more research and work into that? And that kind of goes back to the whole idea of you just get pulled into things and maybe you don't know the whole backstory. You don't even know that it exists. Another backstory, I have to say, is situational ethics. I don't know if people are familiar with it. Fletcher brought it in. Once again, he was a kind of a philosopher, ethicist, but in 1966 he brought in this thing of situational ethics. So I had a philosophical theology background, and trust me, everyone across philosophy, ethics, theology, religion, they were all doing situational ethics. So all of a sudden, there's no divine law, there's no legal law. It's all based on what's going to be the end. So the end determines the means. Everything is relative, everything is situational. And then the biggest surprise to me came in a third system that came about in 1987. That's called VUCA, V-U-C-A. And the military brought this about because of the multipolar world was emerging. And they wanted a way to control people. And so they started putting in all of the communication systems into something called VUCA. So V is for volatility. And so what they do is VUCA would emotionally overwhelm people. Like everything's volatile. The war's going on. It's so volatile. I'm emotionally overwhelmed. I can't face the war. How many people have gotten emails from people and you'll bring something up that they're your friend and you want to discuss with them and they'll go, I can't talk about this. I'm too overwhelmed by it. That's actually volatility that's been engineered into society. The second one is uncertainty. Everything's uncertain. We may go into the rapture tomorrow, and what that does is learned helplessness. You just get helpless and cave and flop over, and you're done. The next one is complexity. Everything is so complex. So if you go on X, or you go into Blue Sky, or you go into Facebook, everybody has all these opinions. Everything is so complex to look at. And so people just get what would call cognitive overload. Like I can't think about it anymore. I can't have any more situations, experiences, or ideas to think about. But the thing I want to really focus on that I think is working with Epstein is ambiguity. And ambiguity actually means back to situational ethics. There's more than one way to look at things. Like, like what Shelley was saying, well, I can rationalize my behavior. It's easy to rationalize it. That's ambiguity. That's situational ethics. And so you're just throwing out any kind of human laws. You're throwing out any kind of divine laws. You're throwing out any kind of like codified ancient laws or biblical laws. All that gets thrown out and everything just gets reinterpreted. But it's not reinterpreted as one idea, it's reinterpreted as a multitude of ideas that get thrown at you. So VUCA also works a lot with shame and guilt, like what Tara was talking about. Like my personal shame that I have done something wrong and I've sinned or I have done these awful deeds in my life. I should have made better decisions. It's like a vacuum. You just get sucked right into VUCA, right into the inability to even to make decisions and think about what you're doing. And so I really wrote this Substack to kind of come out at the end and say, and I'm still asking this question, do people who are in the consciousness field, do they think about consciousness or do they think about a conscience? CONSINCE, a conscious, like the little voice on your shoulder. Do we ever talk about conscience? My conscience told me not to do that. You know, for us, we get this big, huge field of consciousness and the fifth dimension, and you know, we're all in this rarefied atmosphere, but it's really grounded in conscience. Like, what's my conscience telling me to do? And I think also we have to look at another huge issue that we have, kind of a macro issue, and that's we in the consciousness field are responsible, or are we? Are we in the consciousness field responsible for the field of consciousness? Are we responsible for that? Are we responsible for what goes into the field of consciousness? Are we responsible for how it's constructed? What ideas go into it? Kind of like Carl Jung, mass consciousness. Are we responsible for that? And so when we don't act or speak out against someone like Epstein or Chopra or Rupert Sheldrake or Stuart Hameroff. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. Or all of the experimentation that was being done on transhumanism, that the fact that are we with the bankers, all the banker affiliations, are we actually living in a pedophile government, under a pedophile government? Are we living under a pedophile banking system? I mean, at least we can ask the questions. So that, and then the third thing I keep raising, and I want to keep raising this issue, are we as what I call, if you're an experiencer, if you're a contactee, to my way of thinking, you're a post-disclosure. You're a post-disclosure person, and you maybe, if you choose, have a moral responsibility for what this post-disclosure world's going to look like. Is it going to be moral? Is it going to have moral actions to it? Or is it going to be just situational? Every situation's different. We'll just make up new rules as we go along. You know, those are just big questions that we're going to have to rectify within ourselves. And that's going to take a sacrifice. We can't avoid sacrifice. If we're going to be morally responsible individuals, we're going to sacrifice something. It's going to be a hard swallow. Let's just put it like that. It's going to be a hard swallow. You might lose some friends. You might lose some family members. But there's a real sacrifice that's happening to you when you go into this. So just to be clear, morality is an action. So your morals are your actions. Your ethics are your framework. So what I'm suggesting is that, is it possible that we as a contactee consciousness community can begin to use our conscience, that little thing that sits on our shoulder, Can we begin to use our conscience and then develop an ethical framework around that? We started to do that in our community. We developed a planetary constitution. We work with a wonderful group of people. We have a plasma study, plasma science study group. I think plasma science is going to be our way through this. I think quantum has gotten us so far into non-local consciousness, that sort of thing. I think plasma is going to be our next step. So if you're interested in that kind of science, we have a plasma science study group that meets monthly, and we all teach each other. So it's not, I'm not the expert, we're all the experts. So it's just really exciting. So thanks for having me.
Rebecca, thank you so much. And during the panel conversation, people are asking about what the story is with Rupert Sheldrake. So when we get to panel time, if you'd be willing to share with that, inquiring minds want to know. And thank you for the beautiful questions that you ask, as well as your wisdom. Thank you. Still have more amazing voices to hear from. And I want to remind everybody that we're going to have a good hour of panel conversation tonight. So we're going to hear from all of these people again. And we also want to hear from our questions from those of us in the Zoom room. So if you have thoughts, comments, questions, please make sure you pop them into the chat box. And I now get to introduce somebody I'm really grateful to have become friends with. This is Satara Faye. And she is definitely a force to be reckoned with. Satara Faye is brilliant. She's very bright. And she's also someone who has spent a lot of time, would it be safe to say, battling with the shadow side, looking the dark side in the eye and saying, not on my watch. So
with a little pizzazz and a little sass, because we got to make it a
definitely
little
lot
bit
of
more
sass.
fun, you know?
You got pizzazz and sass, kiddo. She's brilliant. And she also is helping people of all ages. One of the things I love is Satara Faye is very dedicated to helping younger people get on the right path and be aware of some of the challenges that are facing. And I think, you know, as we're hearing, you know, light workers, people that are really dedicated to coming in and shining the light, oftentimes are most prey to darker forces. So anyway, Starface, someone I have tremendous respect for, and I'm really glad you agree to be part of this conversation. So I turn it over to you, my friend.
My heart is pounding, which means I'm about to say something that I am not expecting.
Oh, good.
I want to say truly, I am honored to be in this lineup of absolutely amazing, incredible people. I'll share a little bit about me. I do have a degree in psychology. My psychology background led me to understand that psychology is a focus on mind and body. I was born a psychic. I was born with mediumship abilities. And I took a meditation class that ended up being psychic kindergarten, which ended up being like a bicycle I never knew I knew how to ride. And so I chose the path of being a professional psychic and stepped away from the system and just went completely rogue. And so I've been a business coach for psychics, been a professional practicing psychic medium for a very long time. And so when Scott's saying I'm facing off with the shadow side, some of my own personal story, unfortunately, I have been raped in my life. The first time I was raped, I was 14 years old. And I didn't tell anybody about it until I was 26, literally not a single soul. I got my tonsils taken out when I was 17. And I believe if I knew then what I know now, it was because I wasn't speaking, I wasn't communicating. And what we know is that blockages in the throat also have to do with blockages in our sexual energy. And so I have spent, since I was like 26, I've spent well over a decade consciously clearing and healing my wounds of sexual trauma. And so my heart really is with a lot of the survivors. I've also been connected to Kaya Ra's book and movement with the Sophia Code. And in the first chapter, her intro of the book, she talks about how she was part of the sex trafficking rings on this planet and she got out. And through those experiences of torture, the atrocities that she experienced. She was in and out of her body. And as she was in and out of her body, she learned that this reality is very paper thin. She also has a very powerful clip that I have shared with Scott and Dr. Tara about how there is a darker sex trafficking. Also, I would include the drug epidemic in that is basically fueling and holding the structure, basically holding the scaffolding of this matrix, this 3D slave matrix that we all consciously agreed to be born into under amnesia. And so part of my work is helping people clear the amnesia to remember where and why we chose to come into this body, where we came from, and accessing those soul memories. And the reason I believe that is of the utmost importance right now is because I believe that the awakened human heart is the antidote to all of this. That individually, our awakened human heart, the embodiment of our own source consciousness within, the activation of the divine genome, the embodiment of the God molecule, it's however you want to say it, it is the true embodiment of light. And so, Rebecca, I really appreciated the way that you were sharing what you were sharing, because it really is about boots on the ground. It is about keeping your feet on earth, that we are human beings. I've also often said that I don't know why and how, but I somehow feel that I have a Persephone agreement, that I know how to, I'm born and raised in Reno, Nevada. For those of you that know this place, know it has a really deep and dark underbelly. That deep and dark underbelly, I have watched swallow my childhood friends whole. And so in kind of traversing that edge of what happens when a person, starts working at a strip club, what happens when a person gets addicted to drugs, what happens when XYZ, it's like to witness that in my early adolescence firsthand, and to know that I had to get myself out and away to heal my own, to reconcile my own patterns and traumas in that kind of area. It was like I learned so much of how we grapple with that line and how we actually embody the anecdote. So what Scott was mentioning and working with the young people is that I've recently been doing sound healings with foster youth, because I think if there's anybody that's on that slippery slope of having a seemingly normal existence in the matrix, or even waking up out of it, or literally being trafficked, I believe our foster system is literally that kind of zone. And so a few things that I didn't know that I was going to speak on, but I have had experiences in living in Dubai and working with global Chinese crypto projects, where it was the first time that I was exposed to sex trafficking. And there were women that I was even working with in the office that were from all sorts of different countries, but it was like they didn't have other options. And so it was like watching this, it's like, yeah, is there a choice? Is there not? Is there coercion? Are there drugs involved? Like, what is actually going on? And in a lot of those cases, you can look into, if you ask them what happened before 10, oftentimes these women that get in these situations have a blind spot because there was a molestation in their family. There was a rape that happened before, the age of 10. And so it literally creates a blind spot. They're not able to see what is on the other side of that velvet rope. It's literally they can't sniff it out. And the reason they can't sniff it out is because what happened with them when they were young created an ego barricade to not actually touch or address that pain. And if that pain is there, it becomes a point of attraction. It becomes this point of magnetism. So ultimately, I don't know if any of you are following Tim Tebow, but the Tim Tebow Foundation, I am like, oh my gosh, thank you, sir. Because he's addressing what's going on in the families. He's speaking to what's going on before these women grow up and get into that age. But honestly, what's going on with what we are seeing with the Epstein files has been going on for thousands of years. This isn't a new thing. This isn't like, oh, we just found out about it. The amount of past lives that I've read of, even of my own, of being in a dungeon, of being a sex slave. Like, this has gone on for a very long time. So there is a lot of our own collective reckoning that's happening from being the abuser and also being the victim through the eons of our soul's experience. So when I speak about accessing soul memories and the embodiment of our true light, it takes that internal reckoning of being able and willing to address the shadow. Now, I absolutely love this term VUCA, because as I wouldn't consider myself a survivor, but I guess that, you know, I could put myself in that category, in where I have spoken about my life experiences, and there have been people that cannot handle hearing what I personally have gone through, what I personally lived through. And my story is just a drop in the bucket in comparison to what we're reading in these files. And so to be able to be willing to have the courage and the bravery, it takes bravery. We have to be brave right now. We have to be brave. This is scary shit. There's no way around it. This is scary things that we don't really want to look at. It's things that we don't really want to acknowledge within ourselves. It's the things that we don't want to acknowledge within the family units, the aunt that told you to be quiet, to not say anything about the uncle, whatever it is. It's like, all of these stories are bubbling to the surface, and they need to on an individual level. So the ones that have been triggered on a personal level by what's coming up, they need a little bit more holding. We're not expecting them to be on the front lines, but the ones that have addressed and recognize and understand. I'm an adult woman, and I have been, I'm a healer. I'm with it when it comes to acknowledging the subconscious and the quantum connection to these things. And when I say that one night that happened in my life is still affecting me in a major way, it still brings emotion. So when we're addressing, excuse me for a second, when we are looking at what has happened to these women, what has happened to these women that still live here, that are still breathing the air that we are breathing, and we're acknowledging that there are more, that this is happening currently. Just because we took the stinger off the bee does not mean it does not exist. It's not disappearing. And so the more courage and bravery we can have to actually look at and look this in the eye and say, I'm not looking away. It's the accountability that's not happening in the legal system. It's the accountability that's not happening in the courts. It's the accountability that's not happening with the UN. It's not happening with the DOJ. It's not happening with the systems we've been told to trust. We know that. So how are we actually going to reconcile this? And the answer that I have to that is that the power of the presence and the power of the prayer that we have to truly look this darkness in the eye, look this shadow in the eye, reconcile it within ourselves, where we have been the victim, where we have been the perpetrator across the eons of our soul's experiences. Because ultimately that is what I believe is what it comes down to, is that the more courage we have to stand on the front line and literally just simply say no more, telepathically in our prayers, in our circles, in our conversations like this, that is taking that fine line that just says absolutely no more. There's no more happening here. And so, I'm sure there's so much more that we wish we could do. I was doing this with the foster kids before I even made the correlation, but obviously before the Epstein files came out and all of this. And I realized that there is a lot more that we can do than we think. I founded a ministry in the last 6 months. I never thought that I would found a ministry, but I can tell you that there is a lot more that we can do when we really tune in to being willing to be action takers, because there is an extraordinary amount of people that are wondering where to go, who to help, because they want to get involved and they're feeling helpless. And so to be able to say, come here, we don't know what we're doing, but we're helping. Have a conversation. Let's have some conversations. What can we do? What are you good at? The time is now for us to come together and to be in conversation, but to also, I believe, I've been a part of the healing communities, the New Age wackadoodle, I'll say it lovingly, wackadoodle movement for a very long time. And what I really believe is happening is that there is a shift in how we've been developing our abilities into the focus of humanitarian work. Because why have we become so powerful? Why have we learned to use the light in such a way without actually helping the humans, humanity, in the way that we truly care about?
I'm proud to be a wackadoodle, and I will
Wackadoodle.
I
I'm a
will
wackadoodle
wackadoodle away
myself.
with you, my friend. Um, we need to move on. Of course, we're going to hear from you during the panel conversation. There were questions in the audience. George was curious about tonsils being removed and how that impacts one's voice and one's sexuality, and also question about Tim Tebow. So either you can answer that in the chat box or when we come
Wonderful.
to you in the panel. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Scott.
Thank you. All right. Well, I think it's time for a little bit of music. Tonight's show is going to be a longer show. We still are going to have two songs from Omushar, another song from Rayamana, a pair of panel conversations, prayer time with Desiree. So, and we really want to hear from all of you. So definitely pop your thoughts, comments into the chat box. GR is not here to monitor it, so I'm trying to do that as best as I can. But we're going to go to Omushar next for a song, and then we're going to hear from Desiree. And let me find my brother. I know he's there somewhere. There he is.
Here is your brother, brother. Let's put you on this at the same time, Scott. You suggested that I say a couple of words before I sing, and I, I feel almost speechless after hearing all of the stories tonight, and really not worked up, but at the edge of tears to know the abuse that has happened to women, young women, over the last X amount of time, and to know into previous, and the sobriety, let's say, of I'm spacing out because I want to say so much of Sitara Faye is absolutely amazing. One of my first girlfriends was raped at 15, and then I was with her a bit later, and before we even got together, she said this happened to me, and it's not trying to focus on that, but just it has to stop now. And the topic tonight is about facing our shadow, and my head is my focus is 100% in resourcing myself. And so over the years I thought, well, I don't actually have to face my shadow because I'm just going to live in the light, live in my heart, and connect to source and allow that to shine through. And as I mentioned in the green room before we got into the show, what has happened is the more light that I've brought in is shadows shadows are rising, and I didn't realize they were mine, and I was just saying, get ye behind me, bees or Bob. However, I've realized in the last year or two, these are my shadows, holy smoke. And I'm getting conscious of the fact that you can not run away. You can actually be with them and talk to them. You know, it makes you feel a little bit schizophrenic. And of course, you're never alone with schizophrenia. And so that was the joke of the night. And so I've realized that I can actually reparent myself, and I didn't really think it was possible. And I think it's because I had so shut down my heart, even though I'm in this perspective of great light and great, songs about divine connection, etc., etc. I didn't really realize. I thought it was possible to face myself and talk to myself. I thought I was a bit wackadoodle, but now I realize I 100% am, and I'm really glad of the journey that I'm on. And each of us on this show and the 8 billion perspectives on the world have our own journey to go through as we walk into the light together, as we raise together, because there's only one, from my perspective, presence on this planet in 8 billion different perspectives, individualizations. And the more of us that can join together as we are in these many, many groups, we're just rippling into consciousness, the ultimate beginning truth. And that's going to reveal everything. And of course, everything is, we know what it is. Some of it is pretty bloody ugly, but it doesn't mean that there's also an amazing amount of beauty as well. So with that said, I think, Scott, unless you have any comments back.
Thank you. Thank you. And, of course, we're hearing from gendered presenters tonight, and it's important to hear from you as well. So, because you are an earth angel.
I am.
Shelley was described as an earth angel, and she clearly is, but You are an earth angel as well, my brother.
Deep breath. God had a name, what would it be, and would you call it to his face? If you were facing him in all his glory, what would you ask if you just had one question? And yeah, God is great, and yeah, God is good. Yeah, 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 yeah. What if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us. Just a stranger on the bus, just trying to make his way home. God had a face, what would it look like, and would you want to see? If seeing meant that you would have to believe in things like heaven and in Jesus and the saints and all the prophets. And yeah, God is great, and yeah, God is good. Yeah, 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 yeah. What if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us. Just a stranger on the bus, trying to make his way home. Like a holy rolling stone, to heaven all alone, trying to make his way home. Nobody calling on the phone, except for the Pope, maybe in Rome. Yeah, God is great, and yeah, God is good, and yeah, yeah. What if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us. Just a stranger on the bus, trying to make his way home. Like a holy rolling stone, back up to heaven all alone, just trying to make his way home. Nobody calling on the phone, except for the Pope, maybe in Rome.
Wow. That's I saw all of you moving and grooving and smiling and appreciating. And I don't know if you probably haven't seen it because you were playing, but your last line about the Pope, and Lynn wrote, "Time to get the Vatican nation, all churches and spiritual groups to unite all Milleries to stand down together, to delete and clean up all related warfare sites, projects, products, and programs, and to start the rebuilding of Mother Earth. Right on.
Just shows that we're all one consciousness. And I only learned that song today, so excuse the glitches. However, there we are.
It was fantastic. It was because I've never heard you sing that song before, and I was like,
Me neither.
once again, you rocked it, brother. Thank you so much. And you are our Earth Angel. Thank you. Well, another Earth Angel who, of course, often you'll see her doing her amazing movements to homage our songs and what other people are having to say. And she leads our prayer circle quite often, is Desiree. But she's also a very wise woman, and I really respect her wisdom. And so, Desiree, I'd love to kind of pop the spotlight on you for a minute, and then we're going to go into our panel discussion after Desiree shares her thoughts on tonight's topic.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. So I just realized I had something on my face. So I just wanted to mention here, as we talk about, the shadows being exposed, etc. I've been experiencing some really big transmissions from Mother Mary in regards to the collective and what we've been going through. So I just want to talk about those a little bit. But for a couple years, most of my meditations were all about opening the hearts of man. And then all of a sudden they switched. And one day I was meditating and Mother Mary came in and I got the request of removing the suppression and the suffering that martyrs and saints had been enduring for years and years and years. And then you fast forward a couple more months, and it was Mother Mary again, and it was removing the hurt and the pain of the children and what they had been going through. And then all of a sudden, a couple weeks ago, it was all about birthing or removing like a wound, a big, huge, like 20 foot by 30 foot red egg from the womb. So that hurt and that pain that all of the women had gone through, and just removing that and birthing a golden egg. And then I began to see meditations where there was a red veil that was all the way across the world, and that was being removed, and a golden veil was being placed over the earth. And I thought all of that was very significant. And then the other thing that I really wanted to mention was working with Mother Mary. We've been working with removing like the anxiety, the trauma, etc., that's been passed down from like mothers to daughters. And even when we go back to like when Christ was crucified, I can't even imagine what Mary went through and what her children went through and how that trauma was passed down from generation to generation. So when we remove that and help heal that, then the healers themselves can help step out into the everyday world and help work a little bit more on bringing the light to people as well. So with all of that coming in, the other thing that I've been experiencing is us raising our vibration to bring in more of that telepathy with our starseed families. And so I think as we bring in that light, we're just able to more and more connect with that starseed family, and that telepathy has been increasing quite a bit as well. So yes, I love everything we're talking about tonight. It's absolutely wonderful. And yes, I see it in my collective meditations for the consciousness. It has been, we're clearing some stuff, we're raising that vibration, and we're getting through some heavy stuff, but I can see that golden world just coming. It's at our fingertips. I can see that communication with our starseed families. It's increasing. The telepathy is increasing. The hybrid species have been increasing. We're bringing it in. And if we have to go through that shadow for just a minute, it's okay. Like I've seen the Platonic shifts, but I've also seen that they're doing it this time with peace, right? So they're bringing that peace in as well when we're going through that transition. So we just have to stay in our true light, and we're just going to ride right through it. We're going to make it. So
Beautiful. Thank you. Stay on because I'm gonna add Omashar and I'm gonna add all of our other panel members. So again, everybody, if you have thoughts, comments, or questions, put them into the chat box. I guess we'll go right away to, while it's on my mind, Satara Faye, what's the story on Tim Tebow?
So Tim Tebow has a foundation that's called the Tebow Foundation, and I've just recently been tuning into it. As with my ministry, we're looking for organizations and different foundations to kind of just run alongside, sort of thing. He has been in, looks like, congressional hearings speaking to what is going on specifically with child pornography and addressing the child pornography issues in the United States. So it's not necessarily the Epstein drama saga, but it is, obviously paralleled to that in what's going on in the homes, what's going on in like everyday people's lives with what's going on with pedophilia, and how if we have the IP addresses to these computers, to these people that are sharing, selling all these types of things, why isn't any action being taken? And what's actually going on with that. So he's getting into a bit more of the nitty gritty of how do we actually put a kibosh on the kiddie porn issue.
Wow, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Tara, as my co-host, I want to give you an opportunity to share, and we haven't heard from you for a little while. What's alive for you in this moment?
Thank you so much, Scott. I'm really thinking about what everyone here has shared tonight and the common threads through it, and how we're all, as they say, kind of touching different parts of the elephant. And we're looking at this issue of the collective shadow from these different perspectives, from the perspective of making choices, from the perspective of not making a choice, but having trauma happen to us, and working through it and understanding from the spiritual perspective how this happens, how reincarnation might play a role, how karma might play a role. There's so many complex threads that are being woven, but the common theme of, we'll say, the tapestry is learning how to, with everything that's being uncovered, how to move through it with grace and dignity, morality, ethics, and together. And so with that, I would love to hear from the other members of the panel. Rebecca, especially, I was blown away by everything that you said. So many different little nuggets that you dropped. I wrote down and thought, okay, we have to connect more on all of these, but especially on this thread of maybe losing family members, maybe losing friends in order to do what's right. And I think that kind of bravery, which Satara also spoke to, is something that we all need in order to stand firm against the darkness and know that we have each other and we have community in that.
I can address that. I've been in the consciousness community for a long time. I'm a childhood experiencer, so I've been around extraterrestrial information for a long time. And I increasingly, going through this time, feel like we need to kind of drop our being so naive. We're kind of the nice people, we're the love people, we're the oneness people, we're the good people. And really, in order to be effective, you have to take a hard look at what's going on. And one of the main things that are going on right now is extraterritorial groups are coming in and infiltrating our lives to a greater extent. An extraterrestrial, not extraterrestrial, but extraterritorial. So these kind of like globalist groups that have come together across any kind of national boundaries. They call themselves globalists. They call themselves the one of the planet. When in fact they're just claiming to have rights that no one voted for. No one said, "Oh, that's a good idea." And we're also dealing with a lot of sovereign territory. So one of the reasons why I ran into so much of this sex trafficking in Washington, D.C. was because that's a sovereign state. So it's a star, DC is a sovereign state. So it has its own laws, it has its own legal system. It's not accountable to anybody but Congress that just lets it do whatever it wants to do. So embassies are all there. So embassies sex traffic in people saying, oh, we'll give you a job in Washington, D.C., and you live in Java, you don't have any money, we're going to bring you in. Then they get them in the embassies, they take their passports away from them, and they're trapped in these embassies. And then they're sex trafficked. So it's just really quite and that's even looking at kind of like the globalists, but also the secret societies that have run extra territorial systems throughout time. The Vatican's another sovereign authority. I worked for 15 years with the Catholic Church. I was the Protestant and they were all Catholics, but I was a chaplain at a university. And the Vatican can do whatever it wants to do. It's got its own banking system. It's got its own legal system. Nobody is ever held legally accountable at the Vatican for finances or for pedophilia or for sex trafficking. And who was the biggest benefactor of open border immigration in the United States that happened during the Biden administration? That was Catholic Church. Catholic Church benefited more money than they got billions of dollars for trafficking people across borders, many of them just young children that no one was responsible for. And now, Trump is like, Biden is like, well, we don't know where they are. We don't know what happened to them. So I think we really, we need to drill down and be accountable, not only to ourselves on this issue, but to say things that like may upset other people that have been high up in institutions.
Absolutely. I just dropped in the chat here. I worked with a private investigator. Her name is Cynthia Lyles, and she was involved with exposing the abuses in the Catholic Church. And then we had kind of teamed up with someone in my field. His name is Dr. Steve Hassan. He wrote a book on cults to expose another cult that had over 1,000 people identified as having molested children or raped children over the course of the last several decades. And being exposed to this, it really was shocking. And then even after that, for me, the Epstein files were shocking. There is so much of this darkness really going on. And I think, Rebecca, you're right to kind of call out these organizations. I think there are good people in them. And I think that there are a lot of people who use these positions of power in ways that, not very many people, even in the organizations, are aware. They're very complex issues. And it's so important, again, to hold all of this darkness in the light and transmute it, right? Sing it, bless it, pray it, meditate it, transmute it.
Yes, speak it. I just want to add one more thing really quickly. I want everybody to be aware of, I don't know if you've run across it, but there's a lot of talk now about Havana syndrome. So Havana syndrome is electromagnetics being used to control people, being used to control our body area network as 6G comes in, as 7G comes in. So we're going to be looking at an even fiercer and more powerful control and manipulation of humans than we've ever confronted before as a human race, I think. Maybe ancient cultures, Atlantis, whatever, Lemuria. But right now, as our contemporary humanness, we're looking at a massive system that's going to control humans.
Right. And so essentially it's more important now than ever. So for those who aren't familiar with Havana syndrome, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rebecca, members of or basically U.S. diplomats and their families were falling ill. And Dr. Gary Nolan, who's a tenured Stanford professor, was asked, I believe by the CIA, to look into Havana syndrome. And it turns out that Havana syndrome is quite real. And there are these ways in which people who are connected to these darker systems are trying to exert their control, right? And so it's easy, I think, in the face of this to succumb to fear, and right, rather than succumbing to fear, it's essentially the biggest call to action that there is, right? This is a critical moment in time where there are technologies we don't fully understand. There are people in positions of power and we don't know who they are. We're starting to kind of guess, but some of the most powerful people on the planet, I bet we don't even know their names. And so they could be walking down the street, and we would have no idea. And so I think that, again, it comes back to community, raising consciousness, being aware, being informed, and not doing the ostrich move of putting our heads in the sand, right? But being here and having these difficult conversations. So thank you.
Yeah. If people
So
are
I-
interested, Dr. Lynn Burr, Berlen, Lynn Burr, Ber, he is the foremost expert right now on Havana syndrome and how it's not affected just diplomats, but it's also affecting private citizens.
Thank you,
Thank
Rebecca.
you for that.
Um, I'm going to bring up, I think, kind of what will probably be the darkest part of our conversation tonight. And then we're going to take a little break for Rayamana to lighten things up again with some music. But I'm going to bring all of our panelists back up because it's becoming more and more clear that there does appear to be a long, centuries-old experience of, call it the powerful families, call it the people who are the puppet masters, Trump just being the puppet of the day or the puppet for however many years. And that more and more people that I respect are saying that there literally is a controlling force of people, individuals, families that are not fully human, that have a reptilian way of being that just lacks mirror neurons and lacks emotional empathy and is capable of doing very horrific things. You mentioned Kaya Ra. We've had her on the show, although she didn't talk at length about her sex abuse story, but I've listened to it, and listening to other survivors who survived the Epstein cult and survived it. It's really, really dark. So, without going into greater detail, my question to all of you, what is your perspective about that way of seeing it, that there is this very powerful group of individuals, families that have, to a large degree, been running the show? And what's your thoughts on how we can manage the complexity of accepting that, recognizing that it's not about who we vote for, it's not about Democrats versus Republicans, it's much deeper. How do we manage our own personal relationship to it? And is there hope for the future? And we'll start with Sitara Faye.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk on this one. I've been doing exorcism since I was 22, and as you know, part of the ministry, the main point that we're calling in, or that I'm calling in with it, is to be able to scientifically prove the influence of parasitic entities in a person's consciousness, specifically focusing on the field of psychology. Now, if we look at, I'm just going to pick on the United States because it's the field I know the best. If we look at our political system, our financial system, our school system, especially our medical system, these systems are designed to literally farm and harvest energy from people. And so when you look at, a lot of people think that money is the thing that is driving the desire for these things to happen, but it's not. It's actually human life force energy. And so the key is sovereignty, and the key is awakening that your divine genome within. It is awakening the God molecule. So when I woke up, I was 21 years old, and the first thing I heard was, I'm here to facilitate as many awakenings as possible. And so I'm just going to bring it back and repeat myself in saying that the anecdote truly is the awakened being within that says no, because darkness can only be let into your field if you let it. Now, the key about if you let it is the areas of our own shadow that allows for it or also enjoys that cycle. There's a book that's called The Existential Kink that I think is really interesting, goes into the shadow side of how we reconcile that within ourselves. But yes, I have seen these beings. Yes, I agree that they are not human, and the hope that I focus on fully and wholeheartedly is how do we come back into the heart, because they feed off of mind, they feed off of narcissism, they feed off of the black mirrors, they feed off of our social media. There's so many things that we are engaging in that is agreeing to it. The way that I see that in my own perspective in my own life is that I am choosing to make that trade-off, but I am using social media to share my light codes, to share my prayers. We're using this platform to having these conversations. And so it's an interesting trade-off to be using the technology that was designed to be used against us as a powerful force in actually serving the awakening. And so there's a lot that I could say on that, but I would love to hear from the other panelists as well. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Who would like to also address this?
I can jump in.
Okay.
I'll speak briefly to this. So, although I don't have so much experience, we'll say on the mystical side of things, I've had a few experiences, a few handful of experiences. And the very first one that I did have, I was in a meditation, an extended 2-hour forgiveness meditation. And I now know that what I was doing was remote viewing myself from the perspective or from the consciousness of someone who I felt had kind of victimized me. And by merging consciousness with this abuser, I fully forgave. And about 2 hours later, and I've told the story on the show before, but about 2 hours later, my consciousness disconnected from my body. I was in 360-degree light, and it was very high vibrational, except for this shadowy figure that was there. And I've asked Drs. JJ and Desiree Hurtak about this. I've asked William Henry, who produces Ancient Aliens. I've asked everyone and anyone I could get in front of, Linda Moulton Howe, asking about this situation. And it seems like we've kind of come to the conclusion that this was some sort of energetic entity that had been feeding off of my lower vibrational victimhood state. And by forgiveness and through raising my vibration, I became incompatible with this. Now, prior to that moment, I was an atheist, indoctrinated academic on faculty at Cornell. I never would have believed in these lower vibrational entities, nothing like that. But that experience really opened me up to the possibility that, in fact, there might be some unseen forces in addition to potential 3D beings. I don't know. I've read a lot about it, but currently I'm holding all possibilities open. And as evidence comes in to confirm or deny a particular path, one theory gets solidified. But at least in the interdimensional sense, I very much believe that whatever that was, after it was removed, or I removed it, I don't know what verb to use there, but after we were no longer attached, that's when my consciousness became elevated and expanded. And I was able to perceive things intuitively, et cetera, that I wasn't able to. So I think that there is something to this suppression of consciousness business. I don't know what it is, but I'm determined to get to the bottom of it.
Thank you very much.
Scott, I'd like to talk about this.
Okay, Shelley.
Thank you. So I'm a third generation, at least as far as I know, and childhood experiencer. And The reason I'm saying that is because since childhood, I've seen through these veils of authority. I have always questioned authority. I have always stood alone. I almost got kicked out of Catholic school because I would badger the nuns, but I needed the truth. But I always saw intuitively, instinctually, I don't know, like the hierarchies of government, and always knew that there were higher hierarchies above what we call our leaders in governments. And at a certain point, I came to understand that it does go off planet. This is all just completely instinctual, but there's a lot of instinct that comes along with being an experiencer. It is a different perspective of life. When you're raised knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is life beyond the 3D, what we see here, it makes life on Earth look a lot different. So there's always that kind of horse cart or chicken egg question of, am I telepathic and highly sensitive because I was having experiences, or was I having experiences because I'm telepathic and highly sensitive? We don't know. The reason I'm saying this is that, as Rebecca was alluding to, and I really appreciate this perspective. I never thought of it this way, but as the experiencers here, I believe that what we're knowing and have the ability to share is the future of a sovereign human race. We clearly see through the veils, and it's not because we're gifted, it's just maybe because we're a little bit ahead of the game and living in a future reality where everyone else with a good open heart will arrive too. And so in that, again, I ask, what are the practices? What are you doing on a daily basis to discover what it is to be sovereign in your energy field? I know, unfortunately, firsthand what it is to experience this interference that you're speaking about, Scott. And it's just about the most uncomfortable thing. My cat knows when it's happening to me. Um, uh, and I know a handful of other people who suffer through this. And the first thing that you need to do is to be able to discern that something is happening, something is being impressed upon you or happening to you or being done to you at that moment, rather than thinking something is wrong with yourself. And the way that you do that is by knowing what ground zero is inside of yourself. How do you feel when what's normal, right? What's 0 point inside of yourself, so that you understand when something energetically is off, that it's not you, something is wrong, and to look into that. And then to be able to hopefully build the defense systems to work around it. I think we've got a long way to go to know how to reflect and deflect that when it's happening. But there's a lot of really smart people out there working on it right now, to the degree that, there's those brilliant minds out there who unfortunately turn to the dark side and are developing those technologies. There's the good ones developing the answer, the antidote to it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Shelley. Before we go to Rayamana, does anybody else have anything you want to say on this very tender topic?
I just want to briefly say that I think we need to be really careful here, because there's infiltration and forces in the ufology community that want to call any kind of extraterrestrial, multidimensional spiritual being a threat, and they're going to roll them all together. And I think we need to be really careful about falling into this one's a demon and one's good and one's a demon. I think that because there's just way too much going on right now in terms of wanting to demonize, especially extraterrestrial beings, because of the threat narrative that's been spun by the primarily military intel defense corporations since 2018 and the New York Times article when it all came out, and the number of people that have just kind of flopped over into agreeing with that. I think number one, we have to be careful of that. Number two, I really feel like if we just clean up Earth, if we just clean up what everybody's been talking about here today, the sex trafficking, the banking system, the corrupt systems here on Earth, will go a long way to dealing with these entities that we all know exist because they won't have anything to attach to. We just need to do our homework. We need to do what we came here to do and not start spinning tales about, reptilians or demons coming and attacking us. All that does is divert us from the work that we really need to be doing.
Oh, thank you. It's interesting when you say that, because when I think of extraterrestrials, I almost always am thinking of the beauty of this higher, more advanced beings that, in my imagining and reality, are doing everything they can to raise our vibration. But that's probably because I relate to the Pleiades. So, and of course, just like there are a wide variety of human beings, and there are human beings that are incredibly compassionate and kind, and there are others that are not. So I'm sure it's probably the same with the different races of extraterrestrial, and we have to find that balance of making ourselves available to the higher vibration humans and the higher vibration NHI energies out there, and also being discerning not to get pulled in, and to be careful with they're not the ones that don't want our best interests. Well, speaking of Pleiadians and high vibration beings, Rayamana is certainly one of the highest vibration beings I've had the pleasure to know and develop a friendship with. And I loved how you started us off. And my gosh, love to hear your thoughts at this point in the conversation, Rhea.
Wow. Well, I've never been introduced like that before, so thank you, Scott. And I feel like this is a very deep, connected conversation, and I'm so appreciative of everyone who's sharing in the chat. And as I'm listening, I'm like, oh, I could sing this song, or oh, I could sing this song, or oh, we're covering so much expanse. And as you were making that last comment, Scott, what was coming to me is that we need to know the ground beneath our feet. When we have a solid ground to stand upon, then our foundation is unshakable. And so much of how reality has been presented to us through our media, through our educational systems, through religion, has been a bit destabilizing. We're shown fragmentations of reality, and then we try to base our way forward on, only bits and pieces, and so as I'm listening to the sharing and feeling, Sitara, thank you so much for your beautiful, pure channel, and for Dr. Tara for holding the space and calling everyone together, and for all the different facets of wisdom. What was coming through for me was this recognition of my own life journey. And when I was 5, my parents got divorced, and it created this schism inside myself. And always I was trying to fix this rupture between my mother and my father. And I was working on this song the other day, and I realized that my life journey was a reflection of a greater archetype. And it is for the repair, the replacement back into the cosmic story of the mother. Here we are living in a world of religion, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. We're living in a world where the ground beneath our feet, what child born on this earth that was born of their father? And here we have a religious system that tells us we're born of our father. How can we be whole and complete when we don't have a mother? And so, reaching to the greater archetypal awareness that is causing this play to play out before our eyes, I feel like even for us to have this conversation at this point is remarkable. I was having conversations like this 5 years ago, and people were like, that's crazy. Reptilians, that's crazy. Pedophiles running the earth, that's crazy. And then here, for this group to be talking about it in this way, it's really showing that the dysfunction is causing an acceleration to our awakening. And what I feel and have been feeling since 2012 is the return of the Divine Mother, the return to union with the Father, union with those parts of ourselves in this world of polarity, in this world of duality. When we have our two pillars strong and intact, we know who we are. So I offer this song today. It's a version of the Lord's Prayer, and I've put the mother into it. In Aramaic, the translation of that first part of the Lord's Prayer, which we know as Our Father, is Mother, Father, God, birther of the cosmos. So that's the Aramaic to English translation, and I've used the English translation biblically, but singing this just has felt so good for me the last few days. And so I want to offer this greater movement that we call the Divine Mother, we call the love and compassion, because when that mother's present in that household, none of this is happening. So calling in that recognition, calling in that conscience, that morality to speak through us. And we are susceptible to darkness where we fear, where we're in survival, when we don't have enough resources. So then it opens us up to maybe going against our instincts to enter into a room or a situation when we might be vulnerable. And when we can be that light unto others, we can only serve one master. Are we serving God, Creator, trusting that God has our back, trusting that God is going to show up in the eyes of our brothers and sisters before us and help us out, and that we can be that light for others? Then it takes that fear out of the system where someone has to compromise their own moral compass just to get by. So I'm going to move into song.
That was powerful. Thank you, Rhea. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us as we forgive, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us. Deliver us. Our Mother, blessed of the earth, hallowed be thy name. Thy love has come, thy unity done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us as we forgive, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us. Deliver us. Be still and know that I am God. like love has come, thy unity done on earth as it is in heaven. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us as we forgive, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us. Deliver us. Mother, Father, who art in union, hallowed be thy name. Thy love has come, thy unity done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us as we forgive, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us. Deliver us.
So many comments are coming in. George Noble writes, "This is a recording we should share widely." I agree, George. I'll make sure that we do a special edit of Rhea's beautiful, beautiful music. And thank you, Rhea. It is just exquisite.
Thank you, Scott.
And I want people to know where you can get all things Rhea Mana. And it's easy because it's her name. It's REY, Rhea Mana, with two N's, MANNA.com, RheaMana.com. And do you have a songkeeper school coming up soon?
Yes, starting a new cohort on March 31st,
Oh, that's
and
right,
it's
right.
geared toward European time and Middle Eastern time. So it's for us to sing to the land in Europe and sing to the land in the Middle East to restore holiness to that ground, to help unencumber from old stories, from old paradigm, from old projections, so that the divine intelligence that lives inside the earth can be liberated to do its work, to hold its mastery. And I've been just feeling so strongly called to sing to those lands and lend support for the energy that's moving through.
Beautiful. So definitely go to RheaMana.com and take a look at all the amazing things she's doing. And I know that we've got several people here that have taken you Songkeeper School, Karen S. and Diara, who's not feeling well tonight, but she's done it, and others. So thank you so much, Rhea. Thank you for
Thank you
just
so much, Scott. Thank you, everyone.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to give every one of our presenters a chance to offer a final word and then take a look at their offerings. Again, we just get little homeopathic dosages of these amazing people. And I think I will go to Satara Faye next. Satara Faye, what would you like your final thoughts for tonight to be? And then we'll take a look at your offering.
I just simply want to say thank you so much for having me, and I'd like to share a light prayer. My heart is still feeling very activated. That was such a vulnerable share for me, and something that I've written about in my book that has taken me 9 years to publish because I'm afraid of sharing that particular story. So tonight, was particularly meaningful for me. And so my way of clearing that tension out is through light code. So alana yoko apuna haaya ikanai wapona alatara sukana laku amoya kaya iatro haa sunala kana ia oawa nai kine iawa kukana sukane iawa siotroa sikia huaponaya. Beautiful. And so the community that we've shared here in the chat is called The Way of the Heart, and it's a program that I have been leading since January and will lead through the rest of 2026, where every month we have a theme going into the victories of the heart. So January, our theme was love. February, our theme was kindness. March, this month, is wisdom. We'll be doing peace, joy, compassion, and just really diving in more deeply into the concept, the frequency, the consciousness of each of these particular topics so that we can live in a more heart-centered way.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sitarfe. And I've put it into the chat box, but I'm going to go there again for anybody who is interested. And because, so many of our people are watching on Facebook and YouTube, and so they don't see what's in the chat box. So for those of you there, it's align, period, monadsociety.com. Align, monadsociety.com. That's where we have the products, but you'll find it if you go to that website. And Sitarfe, I so appreciate you. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
We're going to go to Rebecca next. Rebecca, what are your final thoughts that you'd like to share?
I'm just happy that we're gathered together talking about this difficult topic and everybody expressing their opinions and giving their background. And I just thought it was incredibly powerful, Scott and Tara. Thank you for putting it together. Really, no one's talking about this when it comes right down to it. Very, very few groups are even caring to mention it or even tiptoe into how a lot of our leaders got caught up, like Chopra, Deepak Chopra, Rupert Sheldrake. A lot of the scientists got all caught up in this, and I'm really glad that we're just willing to look at it. As I mentioned before, our Substack is Rebecca Hardcastle Wright Substack. It's our Exoconscious Human Substack, and we do a lot of looking into the realities of life as well as spirituality and experiencer. So we're experiencer community. And we also have a YouTube channel called Exoconscious Humans. And we also have a very important, I think, plasma science study group. I think plasma science is going to be the gateway that's going to bring us through a lot of this, give us a lot of tools to use in the future because people really haven't been talking about plasma very much. It's been sort of taken off and put into these secret courses, secret groups like the Jason Corporation, the Jason Group, or the group that Avi Loeb was in called Talpot Program over in Israel. So I just think we need to really look at plasma and sort of live in plasma for a while because 99% of the universe is plasma. It's not atoms. It's not matter. It's plasma, and that includes human beings. That includes the earth. That includes the sun, the moon. 99% of the universe is plasma. And when you start looking at life like that, it takes a whole different dimension of orbs, of crop circles, of halos appearing over spiritual people, of astrophysics and what we've been told, what our powers are, the powers of consciousness and self-assembling that plasma is able to do. So it's also uniting science and metaphysics and spirituality in a way that really hasn't been possible until now. So welcome.
So for those of you wondering, because we didn't have a direct link, but if you just go to substack.com, put in her name, and all sorts of different things come up, including plasma is everywhere. So if you want to learn more about it, I just subscribed.
Oh, thanks.
Absolutely, of course. And you can always, support her. Really important to support her. You can get it for free, but you can also support her, which is what I'm going to do.
Thank you.
Rebecca, thank you very, very much. Going to go to Shelley Reef next. Shelley, my dear, what are your final thoughts just for tonight? You'll be back hopefully, but just for tonight.
I'll always be back, Scott. Um, I want to leave everyone with an inspiration of innocence and simplicity. It is the opposite of what's being impressed upon us. And I feel that the more we move into innocence and simplicity, the more we align with nature, and the more we become empowered in a way that we cannot be overcome. So, and I'd like to just kind of leave everyone with a blessings. May the light of your high self, that which is your authentic essence, your divine spark, shine over your shoulder to light your path brightly, so that every step, breath, word, and gesture be an expression of that within you, which is divine, which is omniscient, omnipotent, that which is all-knowing, all-seeing, and all-loving, and most especially self-loving.
And I do want to point out that Shelley's got some really important, lovely offerings coming up. You can get all of her events by going to templeoflightandsound.com, and is spelled out. Templeoflightandsound.com. And tell us a little bit about some of what you've got coming up. We'll start with what's happening on March 19th.
I do a lot. So there's a lot of sound healing events. As you can see, I play a certain kind of harp. The harp is really part of my work of bringing more healers forth in the world, because these particular harps are made to be played by healers and therapists and anyone wanting to make beautiful sound. You don't have to be a trained musician to play them. And so I sell the harps and I certify people in playing them on the bodies of people. So we lay those on the body and play the people, and put the most beautiful harmonic frequency into the very bodies of people. It's one of the fastest ways I know to get someone aligned with heaven on earth. So I do have a certification coming up for that. And I do a lot of sound healing offerings. I also teach guided meditation. And another side of it is my telepathy trainings. What's so exciting is that recently the accuracy in these trainings has just gone like through the roof. All of the sudden, I'm getting 100% accuracy in beginner's level telepathy. I offer them, there's not one up right now because we just had one this week, but I offer them about every 6 weeks. I do them online, and then we do a lot of special events with them locally. And one of the things that we study in that, Rebecca, is becoming plasmically aware. When we are plasmically aware, we are truly aware of one and all everything simultaneously. And I really believe that this is where we're going. I'd love for you to be on my mailing list. I'm releasing an album with Christine Stevens, the amazing native drummer, if you're familiar with her, this May. So there's lots coming up. Thank you again, Scott. And please join my mailing list. It's the best way to stay in touch. Thank you, everyone.
And her mailing list, which I just joined. Again, if you go to templeoflightandsound.com, at the very, very bottom, sign up for updates, and that's how it happens.
And if it's easier, you can just go to shelleyreef.com. That one's live too.
And that's Shelley Reef, REEF.
That's right.
Shelley, thank you so much.
Thank you.
In the beginning, there was Dr. Tara, and it was good.
Oh, it really is an honor and a pleasure to be here with all of you, especially the women on the panel. I think that we really need to use our voices now more than ever. Coming from academia, I've felt that this part of my life is something that I can't openly share without some sort of retribution. So every time I come on this show, I'm always a little bit concerned about, what might happen. And what's become apparent to me is that through reading these files, there has been an active disinformation campaign being waged against near-death experiences, against ET contact, against experiences at higher levels of consciousness. And even having had some awakening experiences, this onion of how programming of fear has entered into my own consciousness is becoming apparent. And so with each passing quarter, it feels there's another layer that's been getting peeled back since the very beginning of my awakening, we'll say about 10 years ago. I never dreamed that I would find a community as loving and supportive and wonderful and brilliant as this. And I'm hoping that these communities will start to form all over, that there will be people who wake up, who are exposed to this information, face the shadow and elevate, and that happens again and again and again, and the growth is exponential. And so to be here with all of you really is important, not just for me personally, although it's very much important for me personally, but I think as a model for how communities can do this, and that we should do it. So let's talk about this as much as we can. Let's come together as a group as much as we can, and let's encourage others through living it to do the same.
Thank you, Dr. Tara. And I look forward to seeing what the next suggestion you make to me is going to be, because each one you've made has been a wonderful show. And Dr. Tara has a lot that she's going on. She's co-founded a mental health coaching app, which is such a beautiful project. And also she's got this website, stepintohigherconsciousness.com, and a 3-step method for raising consciousness. So I put that into the chat box. It shows up when we click inherentlyvaluable.com. This is what pops up for us. So thank you, Dr. Tara. And I look forward to seeing you on the Consciousness Club soon. I think this Thursday, tomorrow. So I'll see you tomorrow there. Thank you so much. Wow. Well, we are going to now hear from Desiree, who will lead our evening prayer. But before we do that, I actually want to give her a chance to share a little bit about something special that she's doing. I so appreciate when I saw her show up in the green room today at the beginning. I was like, yay, Desiree is going to be with us tonight. And she is doing more and more in the world, which is really, really exciting. And so Desiree, I'm going to go to your link and tell us a little bit about your offering, and also any other thoughts you want to share about tonight's topic.
Yeah. So let's start off with the I guess if you're going to the link, this Friday, I'm actually offering an online meditation where I just want to do healing work, right? So if you have aches or pains, step on the call. Like if you need just a little bit of upgrade, step on the call. So I'm literally just wanting to just give a really big boost and just clear what people need to be cleared. So it is, donations are appreciated, but it's free. So you're more than welcome to just join. So I'm pretty excited about that one. It's 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, so 5 p.m. Pacific.
So for those of you on Facebook or YouTube, if you go to Desiree, her name, Desiree, Desira, Pittman, PITMAN.com. And I'm imagining that if you go there, you'll be able to scroll around and be able to find this. We've got it, to the full program. Friday, March 13th, it's on Zoom, of course, at 5 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. And I know I'm certainly going to buy a ticket and try and make it. So hopefully I'll see you on Friday.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So we have talked about some really heavy stuff tonight. And I always find that the best thing that I can do whenever we talk about something heavy is I can pray about the light. So right now, I just like to pray together, right? Bring up some of the topics that we brought up tonight and pray. So the first thing that's happening is my thumbs are actually touching my table. That tells me I'm charging. That's like my charging port. So as I charge, let's take a nice big breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. We have seen the repression of humanity for years. We've seen from the other side of the veil. We are working on expanding consciousness. So I'm asking my guides, our ancestors, etc. I was like, can we please work on the imbalance in power and control? Can we please work on the VUCA and removing the power that has over people? Can we please work on removing that sexual trauma and the healing for those individuals involved and that trauma being passed around from person to person? May we please work on healing our voice so we can speak the truth. May we please remove the ability for that magnetics to be used to control people. And remove any suppression of consciousness. Remember the power that light has. Remember the strength as we open our consciousness. Upgrade our bodies to be able to hold more light. And bring more peace and ease into the world. Wake up the healers. Wake up the light beings. As we come together in union, our heart opens and we raise in consciousness. We are divinely protected.
Let's go to gallery view for a moment to just send Desiree some love and appreciation for that very powerful prayer. And thank you. Lots of hearts, lots of appreciation coming. And of course, sending maximum grace to all beings, especially those who are suffering, those who are afraid. Maximum grace to our Global Peace Tribe family. Sending some love to Diara. May her little fluish thing just be a small little bump. Continuing to send lots of love to our beloved Bonnie as she moves forward with life without Roger being physically by her side, although I'm sure he's by her side in the astral plane and in that way, in the spirit way. Nevertheless, it's a big change. So sending lots of love and maximum grace to Bonnie. And sending love to Terry, one of our regulars. It's her birthday today. She's not, I don't see her in the Zoom room, but we love you, Terry. Happy birthday. And thank you, everybody, for your beautiful offerings, our presenters, Shelley and Dr. Tara, and Satara Faye, and Rebecca, and Desiree. And we are going to close with a beautiful offering from our beloved Omashar.
this way again. Lay down all your guards. Your loving hearts will lead the way. The door is open. The wonderful and the new is waiting patiently. Take a step and you will see all you've been dreaming. Because now is the time we've been waiting for so long. I've been holding you through all ages, knowing I'd be with you once again. Be alone again. Please take my hand in yours. I love you just the way you are. You're my creation. The wonderful and the new is waiting patiently. Take a step and you will see all you've been dreaming. Because now is the time we've been waiting for so long. I've been holding you through all ages, knowing I'd be with you once again. Bum ba dum ba da da da. The wonderful and the new is waiting patiently. Take the step and you will see all you've been dreaming. And now is the time we've been waiting for so long. I've been holding you through all ages, knowing I'd be with you once again. Time we've been waiting for so long. I've been holding you through all ages, knowing I'd be with you once again.
Big love to you, Omashar. Perfect, perfect song to conclude this powerful evening with. Thank you so very, very much. Thank you, brother. Thank you again, everybody, for being with us tonight. I'm so grateful. I also wanted to let people know that there is going to be another soul search happening both Saturday and Sunday in Dublin for those of you in the Bay Area. And I'll be doing a talk again on relationship mastery at 3 o'clock. So anybody in the Bay Area, and we'll be talking a lot about this Saturday night because this Saturday night is going to be another soul search night. So we'll have Tangela and many of her luminaries with us. But I wanted to give you a heads up so you can make your plans to come to Dublin on Saturday or Sunday or both. And I'll be there on Sunday afternoon. And we will do a Sacred Sunday show. Sunday afternoon, we'll do a hybrid. So pop it in your calendars for those of you who won't be with us in person, but are online. 3 o'clock Pacific time, 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Central. We'll have a special Sacred Sunday show. And I'll be talking about relationship mastery. Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful evening. Let's have sweet dreams after all that we heard today. And I'm sending you much, much love and look forward to my next connection with you. I'm going to go to gallery view one last time so we can see all these beautiful, look at all these beautiful faces, all these beautiful beings, all these beautiful divine emanations of the one eternal beloved.